Home again, home again. One day I know I feel home again. Wrong again, wrong again. One day I know I feel strong again. I lift my head.
The way within these past few years with BLM and the normalizations of black violence, state violence, police violence, there are all of these ways that tells us that black people are not loved, that we are a certain way, that we act a certain way. And so I think it's important to just knowing that our existence is resistance, that we're still here despite all the shit that we've gone through, but also remembering the joy and the love and the beauty of who we are, right?
Lost again, lost again. One day I know our paths will cross again. Smile again, smile.
My name is Christine Mavuma and originate from Botswana. That's the central part of Africa, but I live in New York. I'm a black trans woman.
Many times I've been told, speaking my just people.
Orúkọ mi ni Audu Kadiri, mo jẹ́ ọmọ ìlú Nàìjíríà.
Moving on, so I close my eyes.
Ọmọ mi wẹ̀rọ, ẹ̀wọ̀ bá, ọmọ mi wẹ̀rọ, ma kú ẹ̀. Kíríkírí inú jẹ́ dẹ́gẹ̀ ọmọ mi wẹ̀rọ.
Home again, home.
Hola, me llamo Alan Peláez y soy de México. Nací en la Ciudad de México, pero crecí en Oaxaca. Vine a los Estados Unidos como indocumentado cuando tenía 5 años para reunirme con mi mamá.
One day I know I feel strong.
Hi, I'm Eniola Abioye. I was born and raised in Oakland, California. I am Nigerian, Yoruba to be specific, and I identify as queer.
I've been told.
Oh, my name is Tiara, and I'm 25. I'm a trans man from Zimbabwe.
Mi nombre es Dulce Reyes Bonilla, soy una inmigrante de primera generación de la República Dominicana y me identifico como Black Queer, una persona negra que es queer.
One day I know I feel home again, wrong again, wrong again. One day I
Medoro. Bibia Bekamoso. Medoro.
Many times I've been told all this talk will make you old.
In Mexico, being queer was really violent, and I went through a lot of physical abuse when my mom was in the United States and I was in Mexico, and because I didn't have her, people took advantage of me and I was beaten. I was pretty much tortured by caretakers, and that's one of the reasons why I ended up coming to the US to reunite with my mother, to leave that situation.
So with everything that is happening right now, if everything is to go according to the new administration's plans or will, then that means all immigrants go back to their countries, right? And for some of us, like it's not going back home. That's the place that we'll forever call home. But when we are being sent back home in these times, it's not going back home. It's going back to a situation that threatens your life and the life of those you love. So it's not going back home.
So I'll close my eyes, won't look behind and moving on, moving on.
I came to the US in 2014, February to be precise. And that was after the Nigerian government passed a law that criminalized same-sex marriage, same-sex amorous relationship, and by extension, organizations providing services for gay men. And as a public health advocate, advocating for the LGBT community, a community organizer, my work was very, very out there. You know, I've gotten grants to provide services for the LGBT community. I worked in programs targeting LGBT community with HIV services. So when the law was passed in 2014, we started witnessing a lot of attack within the community. Even some of us who were, advocates were targeted. Particularly I was threatened. I faced verbal attacks. So that led to me leaving the country just to ensure that I save my life and continue to do the work I am doing. So today we have LGBT people, living in more fear than they used to in the past because of the law. And one thing in Nigeria is they call it jungle justice, whereby people take laws into their hands and that's it. They take law into their hand and the government would even stand by and be watching. When I say government, I mean, the police, the law enforcement agents, they don't do anything, And even if you go to the police station to report a case as a gay man, they turn it against you. So it's really hard, and that's one of the reasons why we are here today to look at how do we, as people here who've been privileged to be here, although we have our own challenges too, but how do we pull resources together, pull our come together to synergize and address these issues that makes people leave these places to come here. And that's one. And the other thing is, how do we ensure that those who are already here are able to navigate services and remain safe? And for those who want to continue advocacy, community organizing, are able to do that. So these are part of the issues we are trying to address as a group, coming to this gathering.
Speak your mind, just be bold.
But now that I'm in the US, where you think there is more tolerance and acceptance, at least there's enough room for trans people to live in their truth, right? When it comes to doing the work as well, I now have new challenges to face with as a trans person, because I'm not just a trans person anymore. I'm now a black trans person. I'm not just a black trans person, I'm a black trans person who is an immigrant. And I'm not just a black person who is trans and immigrant, I'm an African immigrant to be specific.
Past will be.
A lot has been happening to us, and we have always been under attack, right? And now we are publicly under attack based on our race, based on our sexuality, based on our gender, our immigration status. And the thing about this retreat is that a lot of people voice something really important, and that thing is that citizenship is a very small ask. Because when you take a look at what has happened here in the US, Trayvon Martin was a citizen, Sandra Bland was a citizen, and their bodies were still not valued. So I think that this tells us that our asks need to be about much more than policy and legislation, because we are not just identities, we are bodies, we are living human beings. So when we make asks, they have to be inclusive and they have to hold us as all of that we are.
I think the word that keeps coming to mind is disposable. And I say disposable because I think our system and the policies that are being pushed, they're very blatant in that they're being passed as though our people are disposable. And that's a lie. That's not something that I believe in, right? So I'm worried about the message that undocumented young people receive this week when their way to livelihood, including myself, right, to be able to work and be shielded from deportation was taken away. That sends the message that they're disposable, right? I think about all the violence that that trans women have experienced, black trans women have experienced in this country, and particularly this year with all the deaths that are happening, right? I hear disposable in that message. I think about the fact that we're still fighting for like basic shit in this country, right? For like black people in general, but particularly for our people who are at these intersections, right? And our narratives are erased with a larger conversation. That says disposable to me, right? So I think that's what gets me the most, right? And that's why we work so hard to build Undocu Black, so that people know that there is a space where they're not seen as disposable. Actually, quite the opposite. They're seen as valuable and worth of protection, of dignity, of humanity. Like, they don't have to fight for that in this space. We know, and as directly impacted people, we know that that's the case.
Then I'd feel no fear. Then I'd feel no way. My past would be lead straight.
I really never thought this was possible.
Home again, home again. One day I know.
Stories and hearing the stories and seeing different people from Africa who are gay or queer just like myself. And I've been locked in my own bubbles of having friends who were gay from Nigeria and New York alone, and I've not been able to reach out and meet other gay friends who are from other part of Africa, and just coming here and experiencing that kind of feeling of being in a room with them. Beyond just even strategizing or anything, but just being here alone meant a lot to me, and being able to open up and feel that fear and that sharing our stories. And I think the amazing part for me was the beginning of yesterday, where people shared their stories and just talked, and it just felt like a reunion and an affirmation of that, I'm not bad. I have people in other part of the continent who were just like me, and that we are not alone.
Yes, I am here because my community is here and created this space for me. If there wasn't a affirming space, a safe space for me to be myself, I'd probably still be in the shadows, probably lying to myself, just being in isolation. But the fact that the space was here is why I'm here and I'm able to speak my truth. And this is why we need to continue to create spaces like this for people to be able to speak their truth and come into their reality.
Important the work that folks are doing. And I'm so excited to make connections with folks who are so unafraid and so powerful. Like, it's just so overwhelming, but so inspiring. Folks have been through everything, and have gotten through it and are still waking up today and saying, like, but what work do we do? because there are folks out there who have it worse than me. So let's go to work, you know, and let's put together our resources and our minds, and let's develop strategies so we can really do some stuff, right? This weekend, even though it was really nice to get together and break bread together and party together, it wasn't even about that. It was about doing work for the folks who are outside of this room, right? Who don't get to see this. But also elevating this to make sure that we don't live in isolation, because that's a tactic of control, right? And this fear that is inflicted on so many of us, we can band together to get rid of that for the folks that come after us. This weekend has meant everything to me.
I think that this weekend is the space that I've been waiting for a long time. I've been organizing with undocumented immigrants for almost 10 years. And this is the third time in my life where I've been around a room with just Black immigrants. And to see other people from Latin America, from the Caribbean, and from Africa has made me realize that the world is so much bigger than the borders that we've been confined to. And I feel super humbled to be held by family members that I've never met before. And I have a newfound energy, and I'm ready to organize and to care for one another.
In my own personal experience, right, one thing that I suffer with every day is a place to belong to, right? Is a place to belong to. I live around an area where there is a lot of African immigrants, but not specifically African queer immigrants, right? I have a whole community of other queer and Black immigrants, but we don't get to meet every day. You know, like I mentioned earlier on, like people are surviving America. People have 500 things to do and only 24 hours to do it, right? So people are all over the place. So we don't get time to spend and meet and talk and just vent to each other. We don't get that time as often as we would like it to be. So most of the times, like I'm just like in my own space, my own hate space, going through my own depressions, going through my own panic when 45 or when the new administration comes out and says, this is the new thing that we're now focusing on. We're now reversing DACA, we're now doing this, we're now tightening the borders, we're now doing this. For me, like, you know, like all those things, those are events that happen and emotions that you go through on your own, and you're just like, you know what, I'm just gonna roll with the punches, I'm just gonna do this. But then at the end of the day, what that creates is a lot of anxiety and depression on your own. So now being in this space where you know it's only 2 days and that's all I need in my life, 2 days of people that are me, not that are not like me, people who are me, people who are Black, people who are queer, people who are immigrants, documented and undocumented, the whole 9 yards. But just being in a room where, you know, I'm gonna talk about my experience and not people, I'm not gonna have people asking me like, did this really happen? People question my experience. No. Being in a space where I would say this has been my life journey and everybody agrees. Not because they believe what I'm saying, but because they have lived the same life that I'm describing right now, because they've lived through the same experiences that I'm talking about right now. It's liberating.
One day I hope to make you smile again, and I won't hide. Many times I've been told, speak your mind, just be bold. So I'll close my eyes, won't look behind, and moving on, moving on. So I'll close my eyes, and the tears will clear. Then I'd feel no fear.
Gore ke na le lona le tshwareka thata le ska la itlhoboga sengwe se se tla siama.
Home again, home again. One day I know I feel home again, home again, home again. One day I know I feel strong again, and I lift my head. Many times I've been told, all this talk will make you old. So I'll close my eyes, look behind, moving on. So I'll close